Hello and welcome back to our study of Peninei Halacha, the teachings of Rabbi Eliezer Melamed, Shlita. We continue our week studying Zechus of the Hachayal Yonatan Yitzchak, Refuah Sheleimah for those who need, return of all of our hostages, and please continue to daven for Hachayal Yonatan Yitzchak ben Ateret Refuah Sheleimah. The rest of the next section of the book that we've been doing, I'm actually going to skip. If you have the Sefer, if you want to look online, it's quite interesting, but it's about the borders of Israel, which is not necessarily conducive for audio. A lot of maps and biblical things, so it's actually in our Shir on Sefer Yehoshua, we spent quite a bit of time on this, particularly with the maps. So I'm going to skip to the next section, which is Mehilchos Tzava u'Milchama, the laws of the army and the laws of war. And the first chapter is HaMitzvah l'shares b'tzava hatzalas Yisrael. Mitzvah gedola min haTorah, l'isgayes l'tzava hagana Yisrael. There is a tremendous mitzvah in the Torah that one should enlist and one should join the Israeli Defense Forces. Ushtei mitzvahs omdos b'basis hachiyuv, and there are two mitzvahs that stand at the base of this obligation. V'kol achas mehem mitzvah klalit sheshkula b'midah mesuyemes keneged kol hamitzvos. And each one of these two is a mitzvah on the klal, on the greater community, that is comparable to all other mitzvahs. Echad, the first is lahatzil es Yisrael miad oivehem, to save the Jewish people from their enemies. And beis, and the second, is lishmar al Eretz Yisrael shetia bidei am Yisrael. And then we have to protect the land of Israel, that it should remain in Jewish hands. Now, mind you, of course, this is not a universal position. Of course, this is coming from a Tzioni, Dati perspective. Of course, there are many that would disagree with this, but this is not the forum for that. But you just have to be intellectually honest here and report, of course, that this is not the sheet of everything. We're learning Peninei Halacha, and one would imagine that this would be the position of Rav Melamed and his constituents, one with which I certainly agree. Hatzalas Yisrael. So let's look at the first, saving the Jewish people. Nitztavenu she'im nira echad mibnei amenu besakana shenachlatz al-ezraso. We are commanded that if you see someone from our nation who's in danger, you have to make every effort to try and save him. Shnei amar lo sa'amol al dam re'echa. The pasuk in Vayikra says, you cannot stand idly by watching the blood of your neighbor. U'l'shem kach tzarich adam lios muchan lehikanes l'sikun mesiyam. And in order to save someone, you have to be able and you have to be prepared to put yourself perhaps even in a situation of danger. So most certainly, Kal v'chomer, if the entire nation is found in danger, then person has to jump into action to save the Jewish people. Mishnah and the Mishnah in Sanhedrin tells us, phrase with which we are all familiar. Person who saves one person in Israel, it's as if you have saved the entire world, or sustained. V'im kain, hashutaf b'kiyuma shel ha'am kulo al achas kama v'kama shehu mamish mekayim olam maleh. So, if you can imagine, if you would multiply this by saving a nation, so certainly you're fulfilling and saving an entire world. V'zui mechametz mitzvah muvhekes. This is what we call a mechametz mitzvah, a war that is mandated by the Torah, or one whose service in the war is mandated by the Torah. K'fi shekasaf HaRambam, the Rambam writes in Hilchos Malachim, Ve'zu mechametz mitzvah, what's considered a mechametz mitzvah, a war mitzvah? Zu mechametz shiva amamim. First he says it's the war against the 7 nations when it came to conquering the land, which we learned in Sefer Yeshua. Melchemes Amalek, the war against Amalek. Ve'ezras Yisrael miad tzar tzva alehem, and also saving the Jewish people from a foreign rule, someone who is lording over them. Mitzvah HaMelchama mechayeves kol yochel listaken harbe me'ver l'mashen etztaven listaken l'tzorach hatzalas yechidim Yisrael. When it comes to saving the entire nation, especially when it goes to going to war, a person has to even put himself in more danger than you would for an individual. L'tzorach hatzalas yechidim l'chol hadeos ein mitzvah likanas l'sakana sherov hasikum shehabala hatzal yehereg ba. If one person is in danger, or a few individuals in danger, you're not required by Jewish law to put yourself in a situation where there's so much danger that no one's going to come out alive. We're not necessarily required to do that. However, when it comes to war, when it comes to a time of war where a few individuals put themselves in a tremendous situation of danger, but that's to save the greater good or the greater people, then an individual has to be able to put himself into a situation of danger where the danger outweighs perhaps the safety. Rav Kook, and he quotes again from Rav Kook, when we talk about v'chai bohem, the Torah says you have to live by the mitzvos, and we learn from there that pikuach nefesh, saving a life, overrides all the mitzvahs in the Torah. This does not apply to war. Because the laws, the halachas applying to a community, are different than those applying to an individual. And therefore, in order to sustain and save and maintain the community, then individuals have to be willing to put themselves in sakana. He goes from a Waldenberg, the Tzitz Eliezer, monumental series of responsa literature. When the Gemara discusses the order of operations, my life is more important than your life, that whole conversation, but that doesn't apply to war. Every single person in war is like one person, meaning that they have to give their lives over in order to save the congregation, to save the community. And this also is included in the laws of congregation, which are found, he quotes actually from Hatzavah Halacha and Perek Tes Vav, and also how we have to conduct ourselves with the Medina. This, of course, is all too familiar with us these days. If you think about these young men and women who are putting themselves in tremendous harm's way. And why? So we can protect ourselves, so we can maintain our Medina, so we can maintain the safety of our people, particularly those on the border communities, and now not just in Otaf Aza, but also in the north. So these are halachas that are tried and true. They're being lived out every single day by these brave young men and women. And I could add to you that when I've met several families, unfortunately, who have lost sons in service, and they're never angry about it. They're always proud. They speak with a tremendous amount of pride, like we live in this great time. We live in this period where our sons could help defend the land of Israel, because they understand this. They understand this principle about protecting the klal. So this is something that we have to think about, something we have to acknowledge, something we have to daven for their safety, because they're putting themselves in harm's way so that we can have the land of Israel as we know it and continue to have it going forward. So please continue to daven for Hachayal Yisrael, for Sheleimah, return of all the hostages, and again, please daven for Hachayal Yonatan Yitzchak ben Ateret Refuah Sheleimah. Thank you for listening. Have a great day.